Hi, this is Dr. Sana Hashmi, and this week in my Print Eye on China column, I analyze how our Chinese media and strategic community are seeing the visit of the US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to Beijing. So, this was his first visit to China as the National Security Advisor, and first by a National Security Advisor in 8 years. So he was visiting Beijing to hold the strategic channel communication with Wang Yi, who met him in his capacity of the director of the office of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs. And during his visit, he also met CMC Chairman Chang Yoshia. So you could see how much significance has been attached to this visit in China, and how um, leaders, military as well as the foreign minister have communicated with him. So the official as well as the discourse in Chinese media, social media, has been very upbeat about Sullivan's visit to China. And interestingly, the visit attracted a lot of attention, and this might have actually surpassed the level of interest, might have been much more than what we saw during Antony Blinken's visit to China in April this year. So this is also very natural, the amount of attention he has been getting, because US President Joe Biden will be leaving the White House in the next couple of months, and he, during his tenure as a president, he did not visit China. Of course, there is some speculation that perhaps he might visit China before he steps down, and perhaps Sullivan's visit might be a step toward Biden's potential visit to China before he leaves the White House. But there are, of course, there is another perspective. There are a different section of society, and even on social media, strategic community, they are not very optimistic about the outcome of the visit, specifically with respect to Biden potential visit to China. But it seems, despite whether Biden visit China or not, it seems that most in China are content or very optimistic about Sullivan's visit to China. And also, somehow they are also seeing it as a substitute for Biden's visit, given he is leaving the office soon, and also seeing this as US willingness to move towards perhaps rapprochement and move towards more cooperation and limiting competition and confrontation with China. So there are, apart from this, there are other reasons why his visit is being seen as important, and he is perceived as, during his tenure in the Biden administration, he was perceived as the architect of Biden administration China policy. And there is a perceived shift in the US policy that seems to be focused on managing competition and moving towards cooperation. So, this is something that Sullivan has been credited with, specifically in the recent times. And this is also the primary discourse, at least among the strategic community in China. So then this is also being seen as an effort to leave a political legacy behind, attempt by Biden administration. And Sullivan's trip into China in the last months of Biden administration showcases its willingness to establish a firm China policy that could perhaps be inherited by the next administration. So this is also one of the attempts that has been projected, specifically in the Chinese discourse. Then Cao Fei, who is also the president of China Foreign Affairs University, he opined in an article that this visit perhaps has to do a lot with the US elections and not particularly about US China relations. According to him, there has been an attempt to stabilize the relations with China from the US side, given how China has been hyped as the biggest threat and a political challenge for the US. So, this might become a bigger election issue as the US is approaching the elections in November. So, according to his view, Sullivan is in China perhaps to stabilize relations by discussing difficult issues so that the election result is not entirely or primarily focused on China. But social media in China have different varied opinions regarding his visit. Many on Weibo are speculating that the visit may be more about pursuing US interest, foreign interests, than improving US China relations, somewhat what Cao Fei also said. But the reason that has been discussed on Weibo is with regard to China Russia relations. Some believe that major portion of the talks could be about perhaps US bid to influence China to lessen support for Russia or to somehow influence China-Russia relations. So this is something that has also been discussed, particularly on Weibo. And then there were some other users on Chinese social media who have been pointing out that this is just an attempt to influence and tap into connections or perhaps Chinese American investors to invest for the campaign of the Democrats and secure their votes and donation by capitalizing the so-called Chinese card. So there is this broad consensus that no matter what the reasons have been, and no matter how it is being perceived, that the ongoing dialogue and the continuation of the communication between US and China will definitely help minimize tensions and would also forge mutual understanding of their interest and concerns. There is also this idea that the dialogue is so important that, and there should not be a lot of expectation from his visit, because the idea is not to get the immediate outcomes, but the idea is to ensure that the channel of communication are open, so that the contentious issues such as Taiwan could be discussed, and there is not no escalation, particularly before the election. So, all in all, the discourse in Chinese media, social media, and strategic community is definitely optimistic. It seems that they're very optimistic about the NSA visit to a US NSA visit to China. And most of them are seeing it as the US effort to stabilize relationships. So this idea that US is trying to reach out to China to stabilize relations is something that is being very well received within the Chinese media and social media community. But despite all this optimism about him being in China right now, there is also some reality check. And despite the positive tone that is surrounding the visit, there is also this recognition and realization that no matter what happens and who's reaching out to China, the competition between US and China is likely to remain a constant in the US China relationship. So I stop here and I'll see you next week. Thank you.